Good evening, everyone. You're watching WNWO News at 11 o'clock. I'm Bryant Maddrick. I want you to check this out. They're using these signs, and the message on this one's pretty simple. It says negotiate or liquidate. Right now, things are in this stage, the liquidation mode. And I'll tell you something. I talked with a lot of these protesters tonight, and they made it pretty clear. They want to make a deal, but they're not afraid to lose their jobs. We noticed police and EMS crews actually take out one young man who apparently was injured. We don't know if he was one of the stabbing victims, but from what I could tell, he was distraught, crying, and certainly looked like he was in pain. I want to show you what these cameras actually look like. Take a look. 40 of those cameras are already right now in 20 Toledo neighborhoods. The water continues to rise. I want you to take a look at the river at this moment. The water has risen considerably. Right now is at the base of the bridge. Experts are saying this vehicle is already successful, creating 2,500 jobs here at the North Toledo Assembly Plant. Thanks a lot, Brittany. Is there any snow? Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Well, it may be the most sought-after recipe in the world. The recipe to Coca-Cola. And a Georgia man says he believes he's found it. A spokesman with Marathon Petroleum says no one was injured in a fire at their Detroit refinery last night. Investigators say a fire broke out in one of the smaller tanks at the refinery. A spokesman with the company said the air has been monitored in a neighborhood where the refinery is located and everything is safe. An investigation is underway right now to find out what caused the fire. Leverett Elementary and Middle School has a new program called Push. And if you listen to what's said, it may just do that to you.
I said she was I said stuff that I shouldn't have said to my sister.
There's no sugarcoating for these students. Deontay Moss chooses his words carefully.
If I can get to them and talk to them and really find out what the situation is that's bothering them, I can prevent that fight or that act of violence that can happen in the school building if I get to them in time.
This program allows kids with whatever baggage they bring in from home to vent their frustrations. That prevents outbursts in class, which lead to suspensions. When Moss first came to the school 5 years ago, around 300 students were suspended. Since other programs in his have been in place, that number has dropped to 8 so far.
You can express your anger and express your feelings.
So you shouldn't just bottle up your feelings and anger, because that can actually lead to like depression and all that stuff.
Some of these young people are living rough lives, something Deontay Moss knows all too well.
I've lived in 10 different foster homes, 4 different group homes. My life wasn't easy. I had a mother who was addicted to crack cocaine. I had a father who sold drugs. He was in our prison a lot.
That rough upbringing included his mother and sister, both being pimped by his mom's boyfriend. It's a gritty lifestyle that allows him to communicate not just with students, but also their teachers.
Some of them don't come from the same neighborhood. Some of them didn't grow up the same way. It's a hard understanding, you know, like even for instance, if that kid has a problem with cussing, maybe they're allowed to cuss at home. Maybe because that teacher didn't grow up like that, she doesn't understand that. Everything's not a gang sign that a kid does.
Whether getting in a student's face or just sitting down at lunch, his message remains the same.
No matter what my situation was, I can still make it.
Supermarket aisles are aligned with food. For some people on fixed incomes, the Ohio Direction Card is how they eat. People like mother of two, Letitia Moore.
Times is hard out here. I mean, all of the stuff out here is expensive now, so everything they give us, I appreciate it.
This program is meant for people like her, but Ohio, like many other states, suffers from chronic abuse and fraud of the food assistance program.
It is an issue. It is something that needs to be looked at. We take it very seriously here.
You know, I feel like they're doing enough because there's a lot of people out here that's still selling the food stamps and using them in the wrong way.
According to the state, some of these wrong ways include small convenience store owners who buy the direction cards off of the folks who qualified for them, giving them, for example, $50 for the card. Those retailers then go on a spending spree, buying hundreds of dollars worth of items. Meanwhile, the original card owner just calls the state, claiming to have lost the card, then asks for a replacement. The state is investigating 15,000 retailers statewide, including 20 in Lucas County, up by 5 from last year. Past investigations have busted stores like this Pick and Go on Galena Street and Express Mart on Heather Downs Boulevard. The Lucas County Department of Job and Family Services has investigators too. They look into activities such as
It's out-of-state usage, the number of card issuance, and then we also take outside referrals.
It's hard, especially when you got a son. I'm only 18, so it's hard. It's easy like to get food.
For moms like Jasmine, it's easy now, but get this. According to the state, 1 out of 3 kids relies on food assistance, a safety net compromised by fraud.
It takes the services and the resources out of the families of Lucas County who are in need of nutritional assistance.
Local and state officials say the use of the direction card alone has reduced fraud since dumping the old food stamp. The card is tracked electronically. In addition, sting operations are conducted by state and local agencies, and retailers guilty of fraud are banned from accepting EBT cards and have to repay restitution. Individuals who qualify are also banned. Good news for people who rely on the system.
I mean, take their benefits from them and let them see how it is not to have it.
In Toledo, Bryant Maddrick.
Because all of us need it.
WNWO News. 25I is a new synthetic hallucinogen. It's considered a designer drug similar to LSD, but this drug has been linked to numerous overdoses and in this specific case on UT's campus, even death. December 19th, 2012, police received reports of a stabbing inside the University of Toledo's International House dorm. Inside, the body of 20-year-old Josiah Gallick is found with 2 stab wounds to the neck. Now, toxicology reports show a drug called 25I was found in his blood.
It appears that this was a contributing factor to what occurred that night.
That night, Gallick and roommate 19-year-old Eric Littleton got into a fight that left Littleton with multiple stab wounds. The drug found in Gallick's body is considered a synthetic substance similar to spice. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, abuse of 25I can lead to violent physical and mental episodes, and deaths have been recorded in states like Louisiana and North Dakota. Go online and you can find plenty of examples of the drug, which also goes by the name
N-bomb, 25I, 25I N-bomb. It's a 2CI. It needs to be banned.
Drugs make people do some crazy things. I mean, example right there.
These designer drugs are incredibly dangerous because you can't predict what it's going to do to you, how it's going to make you act, what kind of reaction your body's going to have to it.
Students on UT's campus remember the night of the stabbing, and for some, the new synthetic drugs were linked to the violent event strikes close to home.
I've known people who've used it, but then once it's been out in the news and they've known like the bad effects about it, they stopped using like synthetic drugs because of how bad they can be with them.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching WNWO News at 6 o'clock. I'm Bryant Maddrick. Our big story at 6 o'clock is, of course, the Glass City Marathon. It's one of the biggest events in Northwest Ohio, and it drew thousands of people from all over right here to our area. Eric Wildstein begins our coverage of the race. 7,000. Now to the action on the race course. Some of the best runners locally, nationally, and internationally took part. Therese Fignol is here now with a look at some of the standouts from this race. If you were watching our coverage this morning, you know it was wet and cloudy this marathon. Lots of runners drenched not only in their sweat, but also, of course, the rain. Meteorologist Brittany Patterson is in the Weather Center now with a first look at our current conditions. Hi, Brittany.
Hey, Bryant.
Well, shifting gears from the Glass City Marathon to the latest on the Boston Marathon bombings. New developments are coming out in the investigation involving both a car used by the suspects and what investigators are now saying about their mother. NBC's Michelle Franzen has the story from Boston. Back here locally, the Indiana man convicted for torturing the Islamic Center of Greater Toledo is appealing his conviction. Randy Lynn admitted setting the fire as revenge for the killings of American troops overseas. His sentence was part of a deal with federal prosecutors. Last month, a U.S. District Court judge rejected Lynn's request to withdraw his guilty plea. A Cary man is dead tonight after crashing his motorcycle early this morning. The accident happened on State Route 568 east of County Road 330. The Hancock County Sheriff's Office says 25-year-old Timothy Moore Jr. was riding his Harley-Davidson on SR 568 when, for unknown reasons, he lost control of his bike, went off the road, and struck a utility pole. Moore was thrown off his bike and pronounced dead at the scene by emergency crews. A vacant North Toledo house was badly damaged by fire early this morning. Firefighters were called to the home on North Ontario Street after 4 a.m. The blaze was put out quickly and no one was injured. So far, a cause has not been determined. A spokesman with Marathon Petroleum says no one was injured in a fire at their Detroit refinery last night. Investigators say a fire broke out in one of the smaller tanks at the refinery. A spokesman with the company said the air has been monitored in a neighborhood where the refinery is located and everything is safe. An investigation is underway right now to find out what caused the fire. An Indianapolis police officer charged with causing a fatal car accident in 2010 for drunk driving has been arrested again. David Bassard was booked on a misdemeanor charge of drunken driving Saturday afternoon. In 2010, a 30-year-old man was killed and 2 others injured in a crash caused by Bassard. If you own a Nissan Altima, listen up. The company has issued a recall for its 2013 model. When we come back, we'll tell you what's behind that recall. Also, a manhunt is underway right now in California for a child killer. We'll tell you what police are saying.